All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lauren Shelberg. I'm the founder of Tech Halo, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for today's webinar, 3 billion in new DOJ grants for state and local law enforcement, as well as other funding opportunities, how to apply, and technologies that qualify. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you've attended one of our previous events, we are very grateful that you've chosen to spend part of your day today with us. As everyone is logging in, go ahead and drop your agency or organization in the chat. We always enjoy seeing where everyone is joining us from. Today's discussion comes at a very important time for law enforcement. The Department of Justice has announced a significant funding opportunity that gives eligible agencies the ability to invest in technologies that strengthen investigations, improve officer safety, and modernize public safety operations. We'll begin today's discussion by focusing on the specific funding opportunity, which is currently available to eligible agencies with the 287G partnership agreement. However, whether or not your agency participates in that program, we encourage you to stay with us. The funding strategies, technology presentations, and implementation insights you'll hear throughout today's webinar are valuable for any agency planning future technology investments or exploring additional funding opportunities. At Tech Halo, our role is simply to educate. We don't advocate for or against any specific federal program or partnership. Our goal is to provide objective information that helps agencies understand available opportunities and make the decisions that are right for their own communities. For many agencies, opportunities like this don't come around very often. And while funding is available, understanding eligibility requirements, navigating the application process, and determining which technologies may qualify can sometimes feel just as challenging as securing the funding itself. And that is why we're here today. Our goal at Tech Halo isn't to sell you on any particular technology, it's to provide practical information that helps your agency better understand modern technologies, funding opportunities, and hear directly from experienced public safety leaders. And I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to our technology partner today, Thermo Fisher Scientific, for making today's educational event possible. Throughout today's webinar, you'll hear about two technologies currently supporting agencies, the Rapid Hit ID Rapid DNA system and the TrueNarc handheld narcotics analyzer. As you'll hear from our speakers today, you'll learn how both technologies are perfect matches to meet the objectives of these grants. And what's more, you'll hear from professionals who have spent over a decade implementing these technologies, leading agencies through technology adoption and helping departments maximize federal funding opportunities. Throughout today's event, the chat will remain open. We encourage you to ask questions, participate in the discussion, and connect with our speakers and the Thermo Fisher team. If you have a question you prefer to not be visible to everybody, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll make sure it's answered following today's session. And with that, let's get started. Our first speaker is Lisa Hurst. Lisa is the Director of North America for GTH DNA, where she has worked for over 25 years on forensic DNA public policy and legislation. Lisa will give us an overview of this new funding opportunity as well as additional funding opportunity strategies that support the technologies being discussed today. Lisa, over to you. Lisa, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm not on mute now. Thank you, Lauren. I was saying. So I'm going to just jump right into this. Before we go into the new $3 billion opportunity, I wanted just to make sure that everyone is, aware of. I'm not going to get into the weeds on these other opportunities, but don't forget that there are in some states state-based grants. Important to know who your state administering agency is. There's a group called NCJA, which has all of these SAAs listed. They manage federal and state grant funds that can go to local governments. They may have other connections. So just don't forget about state opportunities. They do tend to have fewer strings attached than what the federal government allows. Just a great example from Florida of some state money that's out that the legislature appropriated and that the state law enforcement agency is sort of helping to promote to make sure local agencies are aware of this opportunity. So great job at FDLE on those state and local partnerships and making sure everyone knows that grant money is around. There's also some annual federal grant money. Again, I'm not going into the weeds here, but these are sort of our sort of main opportunities that we see a lot at the Office of Justice Programs, DOJ, the COPS office. And don't forget about some of that FEMA money, emergency management planning, the urban area security initiatives. Some of those also have great opportunities for programs that are specific to DNA, especially from the perspective of identifying remains after disasters with Homeland Security. And certainly right now, all kinds of border stuff, drug cartels, drug interdiction is very big with Homeland Security and DOJ as well. So good opportunities there. Those are annual programs that come up every year. I did want to pause for 1 second, mentioned the Burn JAG program. For a long time, if you're interested in rapid DNA or really just DNA in general, there has been a restriction where you could not use Burn JAG funds unless the resulting profile was CODIS eligible. Very recently, for forensic crime scene samples, the FBI and scientific working groups have approved rapid DNA profiles for CODIS entry. Florida has already had the first hit in the country on evidence that was tested outside of the crime lab, loaded into CODIS, and matched to an offender. So if you're interested in that, and of course, all kinds of technologies great under the Burn JAG one, but DNA now has an opportunity here. Just note that you do need to still be working closely with your state or local crime laboratory to meet standards for your operation. Congressional earmarks. Again, not going to go deep into this one, but just know that this is another great opportunity for all kinds of technologies. It does sort of have a long application window. We do recommend that about this time of year, you start talking about whether or not you might want to apply for a congressional earmark. This is a rough outline of the time frame that we have to look at for the congressional earmarks. It is a long time frame, but then things can happen very quickly. So it's a lot of hurry up and then sit around and wait. Great opportunity that you may hear a little bit more about later. And I just, for an example, wanted to share with you guys, this was some congressional earmarks, a minor amount of congressional earmarks from 2026, the FY26 bill. There's typically literally thousands, tens of thousands of projects that get funded. So this is just an example. They fund just about everything. Again, no strings attached with this one. So a lot of opportunity with earmarks. Just don't forget they're there. So, but the meat of this is the bridging immigration related deficits experienced nationwide, or also called the Biden Act. As you may be able to imagine, that is not it was not a Biden program, but this came out of the Reconciliation Act passed under President Trump last year. It's 3 billion in funding, 3 billion with a B. This is only for law enforcement. So this is a huge opportunity. It's a new grant. It is for state and local law enforcement. You do not have to be local law enforcement. The state agencies can apply. The application period is actually, there's a rolling application. So you'll see round one, that's already gone. That's July 15th. The next round coming up is August 19th. You do not have to have applied to July 15th. So they're just going to keep taking applications and keep awarding money until that money runs out. So the next window is August 19th and 21st. And then round three will be September 23rd, 24. I think there's probably a really great chance that there could be around four if they have not awarded all of the money yet. The grant period is 30 to 56 months. So it's 3 to 5 years-ish. This is the limiting factor though for a lot of agencies. You have to either currently be participating in one of those 287G partnerships with ICE, or willing to do so. So you don't have to have already signed the memo, but you will be required to have that in place before the money is released. So a lot of if your jurisdiction has been deemed more of a sanctuary city, that sort of thing, this is unfortunately not going to be an opportunity for you. We do have, we found a list online of another organization that keeps tabs on who the cities are currently. Again, this is great if you want to see if your agency already has an agreement, if you're unsure. But again, just because you're not on the list does not mean you're ineligible. It just means that you would need to get one in place moving forward. The overarching priority and goals of this funding is to enhance public safety capabilities, and they're really trying to look at maybe backfilling some losses maybe that were experienced before when there was less support for immigration control and enhancement, or just all of those demands around criminal investigation of immigration. So there's a very heavy focus when you're applying for these grants. There's a very heavy focus on um, is the technology being used to identify criminal illegal aliens? Is it being used for drug cartels and gangs? Is it being used for human trafficking? These are great opportunities both for DNA as well as for obviously for any sort of narcotics identification and intervention. The technology, there's three categories of use. Category 2 is technology and equipment. Very easy to fit in there. I would just point out for you guys also, category 1 is for hiring sworn and non-sworn personnel in departments. So if you've struggled, if you need some people to maybe oversee a program as you're setting it up for a few years, don't forget about that category as well. The third category is construction of detention centers. So a lot of money will be siphoned off that way. But again, great opportunities for new programs here. And then also, I just want to mention the Model Cities program. This program is also available right now for application. There's $300 million in awards, which will be split between only 2 to 4 sites. This is a little bit, this goes a little bit of a step further. Your city or county, and not states here, only locals, must be prepared to allow for deployment of federal law enforcement to respond to violent crime surges as determined by US DOJ. So you really have to be ready for that National Guard, ICE, FBI type of presence in your city to apply for this. But also, if you are, that's the DOJ rule, great opportunity there. And that's the quick and dirty overview. I'm always happy to talk about more opportunities or answer actual additional questions later if anyone needs to contact me. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much for that overview. As you heard, these funding opportunities represent a significant investment in public safety, but successfully securing those funds begins with understanding both the requirements and how your agency can position itself for success throughout the application process. And of course, funding is only one piece of the equation. Equally important is understanding how these technologies are being adopted by agencies and the impact they're having in the field. To help us explore that perspective, we're fortunate to be joined by someone who has spent decades leading one of the country's most progressive law enforcement agencies. Our next speaker is Sheriff Fred Herron, retired sheriff of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and former chief of police of Bensalem Township. Throughout his career, Fred has been widely recognized for advancing innovative public safety initiatives, especially rapid DNA, and has been a strong advocate for this technology. Fred now works with Tech Halo to bring his knowledge to our audience. Today, Fred will share his perspective on rapid DNA adoption from a law enforcement leadership standpoint and why opportunities like this are so important for agencies planning for the future. Fred's email and phone number will be listed in the chat if you have any questions for him following the event. Fred, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for jumping on board today with this very important topic. And, as I say, this has really been a game changer for law enforcement, at least in my 39 careers, the use of rapid DNA and other technologies. And what's great now is that we have the federal government putting up substantial, I mean, substantial amount of money to support this. I've been in law enforcement for 39 years. I was a municipal police chief here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, the ninth largest department in the state. And then I became sheriff of the county for 4 years until January 2026. But as Lauren had said, we got involved with rapid DNA right in the beginning in March of 2017. We became the first police department in the nation to deploy rapid 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And we did this on grant money. No one has extra money in their budget for this type of equipment. It's just very difficult to be able to articulate this to your boards. And I get that coming from, most of America is like me. Most of America are smaller departments, mid-sized departments or mid-sized counties. And all our money in our budget, because no one wants to raise taxes. A lot of police departments aren't very well funded, but what we do have goes to personnel and benefits and things of that nature, the things you need for the daily operation. We don't look ahead to what really solves crime, and this solves crime. And now so easily you can get these grants. These congressional earmarks are very, very simple. Don't let the timeline scare you. As Lisa said, you want to jump on it now because it does take some time to do what I say is the easy part, and that's getting letters of support, getting your congressman or your congresswoman involved. And that would be first step. Each congressperson has so many grants that they're going to put into the system, into Congress to get funded. So you want to make sure that your program, because everybody in your county's got a project, a museum's being redone, body worn cameras, LPRs, all these are important things. But the DNA equipment and the narcotics detection equipment is also so important that it solves crime and prevents future victims. And this is what we're all about. So you want to reach out to your congressperson immediately. This is who you want to get to. You want to get them on board. It starts off with a one-page letter. That's what I did in November of 21. I got one of the first grants in 22, in the 22 earmark for 2 instruments to deploy in our county. We had already gotten one in 2017 through another grant. There's, as Lisa had said, there's all kinds of grants out there, but this one is being handed to you, and it's not very competitive. If you can just convince your congressperson to submit for it, and you get the backup and the documentation to go along with it, it gets kind of approved, and then you fill out the paperwork after the fact. And that's what people have to remember. You're not being a very competitive process where you have to put all these statistics in and have all this backup information. This is very, very simple. And that's why I'm here as a local person who's done this a few times and understands the DNA to what it means to the street cop and to the street chief and to the sheriff of a county. I will help you. My name will be up there. Please, you're not going to be bothering me. You have my phone number. You have my email. I want you to reach out to me. I will walk you through the process. I will give you samples of letters to write to your congressperson. I will give you samples of letters to get support from your local chiefs, to get support from local organizations, to get support from local politicians. I will give you statistics to back up the need, and I will give you a grant. A grant that you really just have to substitute names and information for, because it's that important. Please remember I'm here and I want to be able to help you get this money. Don't let the dollar amount scare you. It's going to be very, very easier than you think to obtain. Please reach out to me.
Thanks, Fred. And something that stood out is your ability to connect technology with practical policing. New tools only make a difference when agency leadership is willing to evaluate them, understand their value, and build the support needed to implement them successfully. Our next speaker brings another unique perspective to today's discussion. Chief Joey Reynolds spent more than 30 years serving in law enforcement, including as police chief in both North Carolina and South Carolina agencies. After a distinguished 25-year career with the North Carolina Alcohol Law Enforcement Division, Since retiring from law enforcement, Joey has continued supporting agencies across North America through his work advancing rapid DNA technology and advising public safety technology companies. Having served both in law enforcement and later as someone helping agencies evaluate and implementing rapid DNA, Joey offers a unique perspective on what it takes to successfully bring innovation into public safety. Joey, thank you for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it, and appreciate everybody attending this. This is something I've been very passionate about since I first found out about rapid DNA, and I was fortunate enough to work with Thermo Fisher for 6 years, bringing rapid DNA technology to law enforcement, my law enforcement partners across North America, and I'm pleased to see a lot of people in the attendance on this webinar that I've talked to in the past. So it's good to see everybody. So just real quickly, if you're not familiar with what rapid DNA is, I want to go across about that, talk about that a little bit, and then talk about some of the other products that Thermo Fisher brings to the public safety agencies around the world. And part of Thermo's mission is to help their communities make the world safer, and they do that through this public safety network. And so rapid DNA it's helping to advance and solve police, military, DVI, and border investigations around the world. So if you'll give me the next slide, please. So I want to show real briefly, this slide kind of gives you an example of the technology that Thermo brings to the public safety network. You see instruments that will be talked about in greater detail when Brian talks, so I won't go into detail on these, but Thermo has products for narcotics identification, chemical identification, human identification, which is the rapid DNA program, radiation protection, toxic gas, and explosive ordnance disposal. So they've been doing this for a long time and is the world leader in science and scientific equipment. So some of you may have already be aware of some of these products. Next slide. So rapid DNA technology, what exactly is it? It's basically just a technology that is actually the same technology that's in your crime labs now, but it compresses several of these instruments that are normally on the bench top in a lab and puts them into one transportable unit. It shrinks the time to get full DNA profiles from what could be weeks or months, and then even years into 90 minutes. You're able to get a DNA profile within 90 minutes. And what's really exciting about the technology is it's very simple to use. You don't have to be a scientist. You can be a non-technical personnel. You can be an investigator. I even joke and say a police chief can operate this instrument, so you know it's got to be simple. And then finally, it's used for almost the same sample types that you can use from your crime lab. Pretty much any kind of tissue sample or product that you're using now in the crime lab to get DNA from, you can do the same thing here. And it's easily deployed. You can take it to the field. It can be brought to natural or any kind of disasters for disaster victim identification, any kind of scenes, police scenes, crime scenes, borders, booking stations. Very portable unit. Next slide. So this was exciting, and Lisa mentioned it earlier in her presentation. Big news for rapid DNA. So the FBI, the crime lab, and the people responsible for crime labs and overseeing CODIS has been telling crime labs for a couple of years now to get ready, that they want to be able to have crime scene samples be uploaded into CODIS through rapid DNA. And it's here and it's working. And this is just a great example of that. The FBI approved Thermo Fisher's crime lab crime scene profiles for national CODIS. That was big news. That happened a couple of weeks ago. And just that soon, uh, FDLE's forensic program through their lab um, was able to work with Marion County Sheriff's Department in partnership with them that they had already set up to be able to obtain an evidence sample hit in the CODIS database. And that took place, I think, the first day they were up and running. So imagine what that means for your investigators, for your police departments, to be able to have that technology in their agency, in their investigative unit, and be able to upload those crime scene samples to CODIS and hopefully get those hits quick. Okay, next slide there, please. So how are they being, what kind of applications are we seeing used? So arrestee detainment, what we call booking station applications, those are already going on in several states. Louisiana was the first state. Florida's been on board. There's several other states in the process of coming on board where you're able to, while that person is in custody, upload that profile, their DNA profile, to CODIS to see if there's any wants or warrants on them while they're in custody. Think about what that means. Now, it saves officer safety. You don't have to rearrest the person, go find them once you get a CODIS hit. So you're getting it hopefully within a short amount of time, depending where it hits in the CODIS database. It's a great process there. Investigative intelligence operations, we're having it used in so many different ways in the investigative agencies, from identification human remains to actually the military is using it for drone investigations to be able to get DNA from drones and find out who's using those drones and be able to trace that back. Just a lot of great applications, and you're really only limited by your imagination of what the use case could be. Next slide. This just gives you some quick examples of where rapid programs are already in action. We're seeing a lot of states have already, some very innovative states and very innovative crime labs have already set up regional programs within their states to allow law enforcement to access their state databases. You're seeing that first slide basically kind of just sets up where some of these are already enrolled. Some of the arrestee enrollment programs that I mentioned, they're already up and running and have been up and running for a couple of years. So this is proven technology and it's proven it's working. And then some examples of where disaster victim identification has gone on. It's been used in anything from apartment building collapses to aircraft crashes to, I think in Asia Pacific, we had a bus of children in a bus wreck and the bus burned and had to identify the remains through rapid DNA. So it's really a proven technology and it's out there ready for you. And the biggest thing I could say is if you're interested in this, reach out to Thermo Fisher, reach out to your crime lab, ask them what they've been doing to get ready for being able to access CODIS from their crime scene samples and see what you can do to get a program like this up and running. I wouldn't let money be a roadblock. There's all kind of ways of getting things funded, like Lisa mentioned. And so I know as I was a police chief, funding was always something to be concerned about. But if there was a technology out there that I thought would improve our ability to serve our community and make our community safer, I could find the money. And I know that money is out there. Next slide. And so I know I went over that really quick, but here's how you can get more information about Thermo Fisher's rapid programs. I'm available if anybody would like to reach out to me. I'd be glad to talk to anybody. So with that, thank you. And I'll turn it back over to Lauren.
Thank you, Joey. As you heard throughout Joey's presentation, rapid DNA continues to transform the way agencies approach investigations by delivering DNA results in 90 minutes, a capability that has the potential to significantly accelerate investigative leads and decision-making when time matters most. While understanding the technology is very important, hearing directly from agencies that have implemented these solutions and incorporated them into their operations provides another valuable perspective. Our next speaker is Captain Lauren Carroll with the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office in Wilmington, North Carolina. Captain Carroll has served with the Sheriff's Office since 2006 and currently serves as Division Commander for the Support Services Division. Before assuming her current leadership role, she spent 17 years in the Detective Division and previously served as Director of the Sheriff's Office Forensic Laboratory. Lauren's experience spans both forensic operations and executive leadership, making her uniquely qualified to discuss how these technologies fit into real-world agency operations. Captain Carroll, thank you for being here with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lauren. It's my pleasure to be here today and to talk about Rapid. And this is just one perspective on what our agency went through in both procuring a Rapid instrument and then implementing it over the course of several years. And want to share that experience with you, but also in law enforcement. I think everybody is well aware that so much of our career is all about timing. And what an exciting time to be discussing and getting into Rapid for crime scene samples. As Joey Reynolds talked about with the advancements that have been made with cartridges and the FBI approval for the Thermo cartridge to be entered for CODIS entry, it's just an exciting time to get into this technology and explore what it can do for your agency. And with that, I do want to share some of our experiences here in Wilmington, North Carolina, with implementing the Rapid instrument for crime scenes and how that has worked for us. And so part of our process has been a long journey, and a lot of it is based on timing and updates that were occurring through FBI validation as well as new cartridges being developed. So the good news is we've gone through those struggles and weeded out what needed to be done, and a lot of that is now in the past. And with a secure future ahead, it will make agencies procuring instruments now a lot easier. But part of our process was reaching out to other agencies that were operating a Rapid instrument for crime scene samples. One thing that we found back in 2020 when we started this journey was there was quite a few agencies operating a Rapid instrument for booking stations. And although that is wonderful and also provides some great investigative leads in booking stations, making sure that you talk to agencies that are deploying a Rapid instrument in the manner that your agency wishes to deploy it, be that booking station, crime scene samples, or both. But identifying those agencies that can help you start that process. Sheriff Herron was one of those for us at New Hanover back when he was chief of police for Bensalem Police Department. He invited us up and we spent a day at his agency exploring how they were implementing Rapid for crime scene. So that was our step one. And then we were awarded BJA funding. And that's how we initially purchased our Rapid instrument and started our program. And with that, there were, again, some advancements that were being made with cartridges. And we had to develop policies and procedures to submit back to the BJA board to proceed with the procurement of an instrument. Once we did procure a Thermo Fisher Rapid instrument, we then began implementing policy development and again, talking to other agencies around the country and what was working for them and working off of a lot of those same policies instead of recreating the wheel worked well for us. And then we went through several validations for different cartridges. Then we started in the summer of or fall of 2024, actually processing crime scene samples through our Rapid instrument. But that's a brief overview of our journey with Rapid. And one of the biggest benefits to us when starting this program was really talking to stakeholders. There are so many partnerships that are going to be extremely important in developing a rapid program. And first and foremost, talking to other agencies who are utilizing rapid. Again, visiting those agencies. Sheriff Herron was a huge resource for us. I hope to pay it forward and be a resource to those procuring instruments as well. My contact information will be in the last slide, and I encourage you as well to reach out. I'd be happy to share my information, my policies, what we have been able to develop here in New Hanover, because that has been based greatly on what other agencies have guided us in and provided us. Also, Joey touched on really communicating with your state and your state crime lab. Now with CODIS entry being available for rapid crime scene samples, it is ideal to pursue that. It's really going to open up quite a few more forensic leads by tapping into that national database, whether that's run by your state crime lab. If you have a local agency that's tapped into CODIS, then creating those partnerships and having those conversations early on while you're exploring funding is definitely recommended. And then also talking with your prosecutor's office or district attorneys as to their thoughts and really educating them to make sure that they know what Rapid for Crime Scene can do and how it can aid in investigations, speed up a process that many states experience taking a very long time. And if you can establish those relationships and have those conversations early on so that they will support you. As Sheriff Herron said, they are an excellent resource to also be writing letters on your behalf to support procuring these instruments for investigative tools. And so having those conversations early on is highly recommended as well. And then other agencies within your region or jurisdiction that may want to tap into or partner with you on procuring a device, an instrument, or using an instrument for a regional setting. We all know that offenders do not stay within jurisdictional lines, and offenders are in different neighboring counties and neighboring jurisdictions, municipalities, and working together with one rapid instrument has been a successful model that we've experienced here in southeastern North Carolina as well. And another lesson that we learned from Bucks County and the multitude of agencies that they have working together in a rapid program in Pennsylvania. And in addition to key partnerships, speaking about, get back to recommended practices. And so getting into more of the technical side of things, but it is good to have a game plan when you're procuring these funds, and it will also help in your policy development as to what your plan is and best practices, and also what your state and local crime labs will support if they are going to be supporting a CODIS eligible program. And one thing that best practices that has been successful for us is using a side-by-side or bouquet method with an A and B swab when collecting crime scene samples. And this essentially is where one swab, you're taking them simultaneously. One swab would be entered into the rapid instrument, and one swab would be retained for confirmatory testing, be it through the state crime lab or traditional DNA analysis. And then also really be using discretion as to what type of samples you're entering into the rapid device or instrument, and identifying those crime scene samples that are more likely to produce a single source profile. So looking at things like saliva, blood, cigarette butts, chewing gum, and trying to hone in on collecting and entering samples that are more than likely to produce those single source profiles is where you're going to have your most success. And looking at what database or what a hit identification may look like and what those type of sole source samples that were are ideal to enter into the instrument. Some examples are, so you'll see some swabs of drinking cans. We had a swab of a beer can, swab of a Pepsi bottle, and then red stains suspected to be blood, and the exterior of a fabric glove. So these are just some of the examples of being able to obtain a full usable DNA profile. And again, that is typically done within 90 minutes compared to your long-term waits that occur at a state level or triaging those cases through your typical crime lab. And then also our success, we have had and lessons learned, I'll talk about in our next slide, and really developing those relationships. We have had a lot of success early on having crime scene to crime scene matches or identifications that have led to forensic leads. And where this comes into play is matching a series of crime scenes, and more often than not, this has come into play with property crimes and being able to link crime scene to crime scene and then therefore linking offenders, possible suspects, and developing those investigative leads. Where we have struggled is on a local database. Building a local database from scratch is time consuming, and getting those profiles in there to where you're not just matching from crime scene to crime scene, but you're creating investigative leads from a crime scene to a known individual. And that's where Rapid can really provide those leads and help solve crime. That's also where it's so exciting that the FBI has approved Thermo's cartridge for CODIS entry, because tapping into that database is, as Florida has already experienced, going to open up a whole new multitude of investigative leads and matches. And lessons learned, what worked for us, and that willing to discuss more if you want to reach out and communicate either by email or feel free to call me. But we did, in talking to our district attorney's office, we started small with property crimes, narcotics, and weapons offenses. Our crimes against persons, we were still utilizing traditional DNA analysis through the state crime lab. We have already been in discussions of expanding this program, but that's where we wanted to start in the beginning as we built it, and it worked for us. And I spoke about the difficulty of building a local database based on consent samples. We are still building that database as we work with the state crime lab to come under their guidance in developing a program for the CODIS entry samples. And post-award budget planning, that whether it be through grant funding or judiciary funds, that having a plan in place, talking to your agency heads and other local agency heads that may buy into the program about how do you make your program sustainable after the funding has been complete. And that's been vitally important for us. We've been blessed to have a sheriff and command staff that support the program and have provided the funding now that our BJA funding has come to a close. And so those were some of our success stories and some of what we've learned along the way. Again, my contact information is up. Please feel free to snap a picture, send me an email, anything I can share with you to help along the way, policies and procedures, validation procedures, some of our consent forms that we're utilizing, and some letters that we have sent out as well. I'm happy to share and happy to assist in any way. And with that, Lauren, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Captain Carroll, for sharing your insights and your incredible experience with Rapid DNA. Throughout today's discussion, we've heard about funding opportunities, leadership considerations, and Rapid DNA implementation, and we will now learn about the TrueNarc handheld narcotics analyzer. Our final presenter brings nearly 3 decades of law enforcement experience to today's discussion. Brian is the Northeast Regional Sales Manager for Thermo Fisher Scientific's Field and Safety Instruments Division. Before joining Thermo Fisher Scientific, Brian served more than 29 years with the Michigan State Police, retiring as a detective first lieutenant. During his law enforcement career, he led narcotics investigations, undercover operations, and commanded several specialized units, including aviation, K-9, traffic reconstruction, and the bomb squad. Brian was also instrumental in helping deploy both the TrueNarc handheld narcotics analyzer and the First Defender RM technologies throughout the Michigan State Police, giving him firsthand experience with how these tools support investigators and improve officer safety. Today, Brian will provide an overview of the TrueNarc handheld narcotics analyzer. Brian, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate the time to showcase the technology. Just waiting for the slideshow here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. There we go. Okay, this has my information on it right here. As Lauren stated, I'm an employee with Thermo Fisher, but before that, I spent 29 years plus with the Michigan State Police, most of that in the narcotics field. So for me, the TrueNarc is near and dear to me because it made such a difference with all the work that I did. Again, 17 years of my 29 were with narcotics in one way or another. So here we go here. This is just to showcase what are we really looking for here. When we are testing narcotics, it's the unknown. You never see a drug dealer that has his drugs labeled, so you know it's heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine. So when you're out there in the field, you don't know what you're dealing with, and it could be a few concerns. Number one, your safety. We know with fentanyl, some of the other narcotics out there right now, it can be deadly. So it really is an issue. And also with the lab backups now, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you can't do your charging decision. So a lot of agencies can't even lodge personnel until they get a lab report back. So that's what the TrueNarc is all about, is going ahead and getting those items tested. So this is what Thermo has in the form of counter narcotics. Now, our flagship for narcotics is TrueNarc Delta. It's the easiest to use, it has a large library, and its cost factor is less than the other. Now, the Defender Omega and Gemini you could use, but those also have other items of use as far as hazmat and other things. They all do incorporate Raman spectroscopy, which I'm not going to get into the weeds of that, but they all have that, and Gemini has FTIR as well. But again, the TrueNarc, very simple to use, easily deployable. And as you can see here, 1,200 plus library items. You're probably going to hear me say that several times throughout this presentation. But the cost, and I always say easy to use. At the Michigan State Police, we used to call it trooper proof because anybody could use this machine. It's very simple. It has a closed loop library, which we'll talk about later. Automated reporting, we'll talk about later. And then chain of custody, which is part of that, which is extremely important when you're dealing with your criminal case. This just goes to show you how widely used the TrueNarc Delta is. We're in 6 continents, 90 plus countries, all 50 US states to include Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. The device is well used. It is proven, and that's why there are so many out there. Prior to May 2025, we had the TrueNarc, which was the original TrueNarc. And then in May 2025, we introduced the TrueNarc Delta, which has pretty much revolutionized drug testing all over again. The library went from 530 to over 1,200. It's faster. It has a different nose cone, a different H2 kit. And I will show you that in this slide here. So as you can see on the left, the Legacy had all these great features, but on the right, the Delta has all these great features to include the improved speed. And if anybody out there has a Delta over the Legacy, you'd be able to see that right away. Also, the H2 kit it's a new solution. It's methanol, so it allows for better differentiation between fentanyl and methamphetamine, which out in the world right now, those are probably the two most prevalent narcotics out there. So that was a big upgrade. And again, I spoke about earlier is the broader library, over 1,200 items in the library. And I also like to talk about the library as far as how it pertains to Thermo Fisher. Thermo Fisher creates its own library, so it's a known lab environment where our library is created. You're not purchasing a library from an unknown company or overseas. These are all known substances in our library through Thermo Fisher. This slide here shows the displays on the screen for the Delta. And so what it does now is like if you see the first one there, heroin shows up in red, that immediately alerts you to the fact that it is a controlled substance. So it's very simple to read. So if you get red, you know you're dealing with a controlled substance. Orange, like the acetone, is a precursor. So anybody out there that's worked on the road before knows that all the drug dealers basically dilute their drugs with something. And so if you get something like a precursor, it'll tell you it's a precursor. So orange, and if you get that, you should know that you need to look for something else. Not to say it's going to be there, but there's a good possibility that there's going to be a known narcotic in there. It's just you're getting the precursor. So maybe test from a different location on the package or the drug to see if you can detect anything else. Green, basically it's not considered a precursor and it's not a narcotic. So anything that you test, it could be a white powder, might turn out to be baking soda, and this will tell you exactly what that is, and that's green. And then gray is inconclusive, so it's either not in the library or it's just something that's not anything. So, for instance, if it's not in the library and you really think you have something that you believe is hazardous, then you can send that back via the reach back, and we can look into that for you. Again, I don't want to go over this too much, but just here's the Delta itself. And if you have a legacy, you'll be able to tell the difference. Again, the library, the other big thing is the battery. Before you couldn't replace the battery. Now you can replace the battery if your lithium ion goes bad. I can tell you this at the Michigan State Police. I before I left there, I had put 91 TrueNarc devices just at Michigan State Police. I don't believe we ever had one battery go bad, but if it does, you can replace it. You have now the Wi-Fi dongle. You have touchscreen. You also have a delay if you believe something is hazardous that you can set it and you can walk away. So a lot of upgraded features on the Delta. I also have the Type H2 kit that I talked about, and one of the things that really helped out was the testing stick. Now on the nose cone, there's a location where you don't have to hold that anymore. You can just set that on the nose cone, and you'll be able to get your reading. Expanded library, this again was huge, but one of the biggest things in the expanded library you need to look at is the fact that 110 of those new additions were fentanyl compounds. One of the most dangerous items out there right now is fentanyl. You see it every day where you're having a fentanyl overdose or a law enforcement exposure. So that was extremely important to Thermo to get those in there. That way, you know if you're dealing with fentanyl or not. There are a lot of different variations out there, and they really did the improvement to put all those in there so you know what you're dealing with. Scanning samples. So that's the greatest thing about this device is you can shoot the laser through these packaging materials. So you can see the syringe on the bottom. As long as it's not too thick, you'd have no problem shooting through that, and you'd be able to tell what's in there in the syringe without, putting yourself in hazardous way by trying to get something out of it. Same way with the plastic bag, right? You can shoot right through that. The tablets and capsules, everything you can do a direct scan on with the laser. If the packaging is too dark, it may not work, but you'll be able to know that right by looking at something like those bricks. And again, like I say, this is a direct scan. If you look at this, you can put the bag of unknown powder right next to the lens and do your scan. Same with the bottle. The bottom left, there's a pill. You can take the pill, put it right on the lens, and on the nose cone, do your direct scan. And the same for the powder in the bottom right. A lot of times with the pills, you might get a protective coating, and it won't come back. You can then crush that if you have to and do a direct scan like the bottom right. These right here, when you say you conducted a traffic stop and you saw all these pills here, you would think you have a big load of oxycodone M30s, when in all reality, this is what a true oxycodone will come back as. You see the direct scan comes back as a true oxycodone. Well, this is what comes back on the counterfeit pills. And again, that's orange because it's a precursor. A lot of narcotics organizations add this in to make their product go further. So right there, you can see that has N-acetylphenidate in it. And again, there might be a little bit of oxycodone in there. You would just have to scan it from another location. But the True Narc will tell you that. That's the ease of all of this. Fentanyl, direct scan fentanyl. Here you go. You can see that it's popping up here. That's one of the things that was added was the 110 more, so you'll be a lot more apt to get the fentanyl versus trying to do another test on that. The H2 kit, this is for substances that are maybe fluoresce, like you get something like a heroin that has a real strong fluoresce to it. You can add that into your vial here and you shake that up and then you put your test stick in there and that substance will stick to the little scoop. It has a little magnetized scoop in there and then you direct scan it on the bottom picture. There's a selection for H2 and you select that and then you can test that substance there. And this was the biggest thing I wanted to hit on. I mean, I think the True Narc, in my opinion, through my 17 years, revolutionized the way we test narcotics. I didn't, before I was a salesperson for Thermo Fisher, I used it for probably 14 years and was a big supporter of getting that in the hands in the Michigan State Police. But for me, the biggest thing for me was, even though we were a state agency, was funding. So I really had to push hard on all these grants. And I just put in here what was available just this year alone in funding. And I know we talked about the Biden for 3 billion, but when you look at, for instance, the Burn Jag, 964 million, COPS anti-heroin, 34 million, anti-meth, 13 million. UASI would be more geared towards like a Gemini or a Defender Omega, but there's $584 million in that grant alone. And I can go through all of these. But the thing to know is just like Fred stated and Joey and Lisa, they're out there. The money is there. If you want it, you just have to go for it. Nobody's going to bring that to you. You need to go out and search those out, and they make it easy. I was never ever turned down for a grant. Everything I put in for, I received. So all you have to do is put in for it. If you need any help with any of that, you can reach out to me. I was just going to go over a quick few cases just to highlight some of my time with the True Narc right here. As you can see in my hands there, that bag of cocaine has bodily fluids all over it. And so one of the things that we don't have to do, I didn't have to open that bag. I had to package it, I had to move it, but I didn't have to contaminate any of that. And I used the True Narc device and was able to verify that it was cocaine without ever opening it. This case here just shows this courier was carrying drugs and money, which is rare, but they had a multitude of different drugs. They had some cocaine and some heroin, and I was able to not open anything up. I was able to direct scan all of that, leave the packaging intact for chain of custody, and turn it right over to the property room and wait for adjudication. So this saved us a lot of hassle, and we were able to get that test results. This right here is methamphetamine, just another case here where we didn't have to open that. We seized that, tested it through that plastic bag, got our positive result, put that in the report, and went on from there. I just have one more slide here, and this is just to show. I don't want to get into the the metrics of all this, but this is what the scan compares to the library. But I think that not only is this important, but when you look at the scan results in the previous check, this is all part of chain of custody. And this is one of the greatest features of the TrueNarc is you can download all this. So no more writing things down or the court relying on your word, because we all know how the courts can be these days. You just never know. So this right here is a downloadable feature to the TrueNarc, which goes, you can do the pre-check, your scan, and then another pre-check, and it all is downloadable to keep your journal on all the drug testing that you're doing. So kind of fast and furious for the time I had. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, take emails or scans after the fact. I think the email will be uh, in the chat. So if I can help anybody, even with grants, please reach out to me and I'll help you out any way I can. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Brian, for that excellent presentation and outlining all of the incredible benefits of this technology. And thank you to all of our speakers for sharing your expertise and experience with us today. I hope everyone joining us leaves today's webinar with a better understanding of not only the funding opportunities available, but also how thoughtful technology investments can strengthen public safety operations and better position agencies for the future. I'd also like to extend another sincere thank you to our technology partner for today, Thermo Fisher Scientific, for making today's event possible. We appreciate their continued commitment to supporting law enforcement agencies through education and innovation. If today's discussion sparked any additional questions about the Rapid Hit ID, Rapid DNA system, TrueNarc device, or any of the funding opportunities, we encourage you to connect with the Thermo Fisher team and the other speakers following today's event. They would be more than happy to continue the conversation and discussion on how these technologies may fit into your agency's needs. If any of your questions were not answered, we will be sending out a follow-up email this Friday, including all speaker information. And today's webinar has also been recorded, and we'll also share that recording in the follow-up email. And before we wrap up, I'd also like to invite everyone to join us for the next Tech Halo webinar on August 25th, titled Technology Supporting the Modern Investigator, where we will hear from additional companies supporting agencies in the future of public safety, and more information is given on the registration page. Again, thank you to all of our speakers, to Thermo Fisher Scientific, and especially to each of you for taking the time to join us today. We truly appreciate everything you do to serve your communities, and we hope to see you again on a future Tech Halo event. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody.
Awesome job, guys.